All right, this is where we get to move around a bit. It's sort of like speed dating, but not really quite. It's speed discussion. So these are the roundtable discussions. So the planning committee brainstormed a list of 15 questions covering different aspects of the topic of community engagement. And you had in your packet, there's the list of those 15 questions on this sheet. And it also indicates which table those questions will be discussed at. So we'll have two roundtable discussions of no more than 15 minutes. So we'd ask, hopefully you've chosen by now or will choose the two questions which you want to discuss, and then you'll have to zero in on the table to go to for that discussion. If the table is full, please move to one that you would to another one that you would like to discuss. When the first discussion period is over, the chime will sound and it'll be time to move to another table. At each table, there will be facilitators who will be noting the key themes that emerged at each table and be prepared to report on them. There are note takers there as well who will be capturing the conversation. And at the end of the round tables, we'll have about 20 minutes for reports and review of the discussion. All right, so go. All right, we're done with the second round of discussion. This is really speedy. So we've got a bit of time now to share some of the key issues or comments. Our keynote speaker, David, will be going around from table to table and asking you to do a bit of reporting. So,
thank you, Volker. Yes, this is indeed speedy. I forget who said this might be like speed dating, but conceptual speed dating. What are you going to do? Anyway, in the interest of time, we'll go around and invite each table to share a highlight or two that was particularly sort of insightful and useful. You have the questions that each table addressed in your packet, and so we'll just go through. Unfortunately, we do not have time to get into elaborate discussion, but please remember that today's session is the start of something, not the end of something. This is simply a transitional point from which we can move from here. So let me start by asking Kelly for an observation or two from table number one, which was looking at what are the benefits of community engagement. Could you think of any?
We went a couple different directions. I think from the most recent conversation we just had here, focused a lot around humility and understanding what we do not know, and having that focus how we approach our relationships with the community and engaging with that. My first conversation, we talked a lot about university and why now are we so focused on engagement? Why has academia been so separate for so long, and kind of more just reflective pieces around that.
Okay, I think there's probably a very long conversation with multiple pieces to that, but that sounds great. Thank you very much. So let's give table a round of applause. We appreciate the engagement. And we'll go from here to table two. Abbas, are you ready to offer a thought or two?
So I like this past discussion we were just having, and it was about why communities' relationships are valuable. And I really like this one thing we were talking about, which was how technology and like computer science helps with community relationships and making it valuable for communities. And really, if you think about it, just to give you one example, is Facebook, right? One of the biggest technology companies. And think about how many relationships and communities have developed right through this one tech company. And there's like hundreds of other, examples like Facebook. And I think that was a good discussion which we were having here, yeah.
Great, thank you very much. Let's give table two a round of applause. And by the way, I'm acknowledging in particular that we have a facilitator who stayed with each table. Kelly, Abbas, thank you very much for doing that. All right, so we all proceed to table 3. You're both looking shocked and concerned, but
Never, never. I'm Wally. No, I'm not. He's sick, so I'm filling in. We didn't talk about relationships. We began to form one because there were just the 2 of us. And so we didn't really address the question for this table. But I will say that in talking to a mother and a person who works with Diabetes Saskatchewan, is that it? That the interest in what we're doing at the university and the need for connecting with what's being done really profiles what a bad job we're doing in communicating what we're doing. And so if there's some research and communication towards that piece, that I think is part of what's missing, and to put our efforts into working with the community so that children and potential students, practicum students, are accessible and know about VSSN and different projects. So it was a pleasure, Ginny.
all right, let's give them a round of applause. Thank you, Not Wallace, for stepping in. Brenda, appreciate that. So let me come over here to Bettina and invite her to share what she can. What are some best practices from your experience that you heard and talked about?
So I had one wonderful person sit with me here. So I'll share what I heard from Samantha, and you know, one of the key things we discussed was the importance of more community engagement opportunities in university early on, right? Through courses, right? Getting out there, you know, working with nonprofits in different capacities in some way earlier on in university, because it became, you know, through our conversation, it was clear that she would have liked that opportunity earlier on in her education, right? You know, it certainly opened up doors for her significantly since she has been working with Search, and you know, having a bit more exposure early on in university was the key theme we talked about, and it was a great discussion, and I really appreciated learning about what she's doing, and actually learn more about Search, which was really exciting. I really enjoyed that. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Let's give a round of applause for Table 4 and Bettina. Table 5, our topic, what have you learned from your engagement experience? Jonathan and crew, what do you have to report?
Great, thank you. I think one of the bigger themes that came up in the kind of the previous discussion was that being a part of the community is an honor, and identifying the perspectives within a community is so important, and taking the time to adapt yourself to the context of the community, and learn about what those community values are, and how to assess the need of that, and how to answer and respond to the need of that. And then kind of also boils down to looking for the passion and following the passion in the community, and the people who are passionate about their community, and who know about the history, and we talked a little bit about heritage, specifically to Saskatchewan, which was really nice. And just kind of following up in this conversation here, also again just about kind of planting lifelong seeds of passion for volunteering and for the community, and building those seeds in our youth, really, to grow and to do that for a lifetime. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Applause for Jonathan, Table 5. So, Ingrid, you're prepared to report. You're Table 6, so this is what are some of the most promising and beneficial ways?
Well, we kind of veered off topic too, but the ones that were the most promising and beneficial were the ones that where it connected the needs of students with the needs of community organizations, and were initiated by community, and where there were mutual beneficial relationships. And then we veered off to talk about other things, including the fact that both community and university can play a great role in advocating for one another. So if there are great projects in the community, that we would have a responsibility to make sure that those higher up the food chain, so to speak, know about those projects, and that we really do see a need to be affecting change at senior management levels at university and government and around. So that's where we we ended up.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. In the interest of expedience, I'm going to shift to table 10. And Jennifer, you're going to report for this table. Our topic is, what are the greatest challenges?
Thank you, David. Yes, we had lots to discuss on both of the roundtables. Many of the challenges institutionally boils down to that academics don't always get credit for community engaged learning. So institutions really need to work on recognizing community engaged learning as an academic criteria, and that it is a valued contribution to university and community work. Another challenge is provincial economy, and as the government scale back in funding, this poses more challenges for the nonprofit sector and community and university. There's also gaps in getting university expertise to the community level. So really continuing to work on breaking down barriers between the university and community to create better partnerships and collaboration.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Working way along, Dean Volker shall.
So the question here was, are there particular fields of work or types of activities that hold the greatest promise for community engaged learning, success, and impact? And the answer was no and yes. No, in the sense that we have to be really careful about, in advance deciding these kind of things. It's a matter of connecting people together, and if anything, maybe the field that the university can do really well at is helping to make these liaisons and bridges so that we can find out what the needs are and connect the right people up together and do that. But yes, there were some that were mentioned. Research, the university knows how to do research. A lot of organizations need that skill, need help with that skill, help in doing that, and that's definitely a point. The education field is by nature very community oriented, and so that's another obvious one. And the environmentalism is big, and that is a field. And then a lot of, it sounded like a lot of nonprofits would really appreciate help with, especially the technology of modern communication, help with getting in on social media, Twitter, design, visual design, and things like that. That would be a useful area.
Excellent. Thank you. A round of applause for table 9. Well, you're going to pass the buck here. Okay, well, so table 8, Elder Noel is going to pass the assignment on to a younger colleague to take the horns and develop this. Excellent.
My name's Hanna. I was the note taker for table 8, so I've got it all here. So we were talking about building effective community engagement experiences, and we talked a lot about the spiritual connections to education and spiritual and passionate connections to volunteerism, and how space needs to be provided for that kind of spiritual connection. And that's one of the many ways to do that is through that experiential learning experience, that you can't just be looking at those educational materials on paper. You need to be engaging in the community and engaging with those passionate people that understand that spiritual connection and can give that side of education that so often is left off of the curriculum or left out of academic spaces. And we also discussed addressing privilege, addressing the defaults of our society, of our kind of white Christian defaults in education and in community involvement, and trying to work past those barriers to have a more meaningful and more deep or passionate connection to our volunteer work or our community work.
Excellent. Let's give it a round of applause. Thank you, Hanna. You didn't know what you signed up for, did you? We call this leadership development. All right, Sarah, table 7.
So we had, what kinds of community engagement experiences would you like to see? And funny enough, our entire table was full of nonprofits. So we came up with, we would like, since we're at the university outreach. The relationship that would benefit both your research and our volunteer needs. So there'd be a mutual contribution, open partnerships and connections, being a natural connector, saying, you know, we as a university know this corporation that could be right up your alley. Here's the guy's number, there you go. And then with all that, we would see practical action with open dialogue.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Table 7 and Sarah. All right. In keeping with not going in sequence, number 14, your topic was what kinds of support will improve the potential for successful student engagement. Sarah?
Well, the thing that came out as sort of an emerging theme from the couple of conversations that we had was just how much student energy is wanted and desired and appreciated in nonprofits. And so, you know, the students who are here in this room are people who are already engaged, but I think worth noting that the people that were at this table were having a conversation about how much your work is appreciated and your presence in the community is appreciated.
Thank you. Very nice. Let me move to table 13 to Patricia.
Thank you. Our topic was the most common blocks to developing successful initiatives. And in the first session, we had someone talking about being at that stage of just being sort of new to figuring out where to make partnerships with the university, and was fairly new to this. And that connected well with the second session where there was some talk about there's no sort of orientation week for community on campus. And that we're actually dealing with some social and physical separation from the rest of the city. Some people never set foot on this campus, and we're not good at reaching out of our space. There are a couple of student buses, but they go to the edges of the city for grocery shopping. And there was the quote, students are the energy. So one idea was to have, it occurred to me there's a big hole on the corner of Albert and Victoria, but we probably couldn't go there. So the idea of maybe nonprofits creating spaces or help working with them to create spaces for learning and studying within the community so we can get out into the community more. Also some discussion of the UN development goals, and that might be something that both the university and community partners don't know enough about, but could work around together. So.
Excellent. Thank you. Let's give them a round of applause. So we'll now go to likely new possibilities. Yvonne?
Sure. Our question was when we consider likely new possibilities for community engagement, what seemed to be the most needed that could be easily or efficiently developed, low-hanging fruit, and what might have the greatest potential for long-term benefit. And interesting, each table had a different, there was a different conversation, and the themes didn't really, there were not similarities between them. So I'm just going to go through them. One, the low-hanging fruit, engaging students in courses that connect with community, so experiential learning around social media, marketing, that was said, fundraising, because staff really don't have the latest knowledge and there are best practices out there that they might want students to help them learn. And the second was professional development for staff, courses that they could take from continuing education if they were accessible for them. And then technical assistance that they could access from us around recruitment, retention of new staff, surveying the environment around emerging issues and trends. And then more of a longer term was around competency of cultures and even redefining what that is, going beyond race and ethnicity to age. And we had a lot of talk about the need to expose or develop basic knowledge, but expose cultures to different cultures an example of one of our members who's from lived on reserve her whole life and would like to interact with other cultures and to know what is culturally, what those practices are. So from basic knowledge to exposure to engagement with each other in dialogue and discussion, and then creating some values and principles that might guide our work together. So those were some of the themes.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So the finger was pointed at you. Megan obviously is not here. Are you able to report? Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Carrie Strathy, and I work at the University of Regina Lifelong Learning Center. I had the pleasure of talking to two groups about what future might look like in terms of some of the best new opportunities for university community engagement. And one that came out very clearly in both groups was the changing demographics of Regina. The fact that Regina now has a lot more newcomers, immigrants, and refugees who've moved to the city, and a lot more visibility with Indigenous people and Métis people as well. And those are areas where the university could reach out. That oftentimes when things happen with regard to community university engagement, it's inviting the community to come to the university. But the university also needs to go into the community because sometimes these groups are not familiar with the university in terms of bus service to get here, parking if they happen to drive, and just may not have a comfort level with the university itself. So if we can have university people go out to other places, that would be helpful. When we look at things that the university has done in recent years in terms of inviting the community to the university, it's often and almost exclusively related to academics. Things like university admission on the spot. So people who are potentially university students are invited here. Are there ways that we can invite younger people to the university before they get to be in grade 12 so that they get to know more about what the university has to offer and decide that the university is in fact a place that they would like to go? So are there open house kinds of things that we can do that would bring people to the university to learn more about things other than academics, but to learn about some of the research and the other activities that people from the university community are interested in being involved in? And I think one great opportunity, and I'm putting in a plug for the Center for Continuing Education where I work, is that we've just revitalized the campus. We will be back there in September. And we are part of the university, but we're also a little bit separate, a little bit easier to get to. And I hope you'll all come and join us for some great activities in September, including the academics at the university, because we can help you to showcase what you do to the rest of the community.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And last but not least, we will go to table 15. And your question, how can we engage with culturally diverse communities in respectful and equitable ways? I'm astonished that they asked you to facilitate this table. What do you have to say?
Thank you. Well, some of our discussion was exactly what Carrie was talking about, as going out to where people gather, figuring out where the groups that you are wanting to connect with actually gather anyway. So, and I'm going to put in some plugs for us that we have an online calendar. And we get a lot of different ethnocultural groups doing activities, or here's a real plug, March 21st, next Wednesday, we are doing a public forum with the Regina Symphony Orchestra and Public Library and Saskatchewan Orchestral Association. It will be at the Mama Weyataton Center, which if you have not been there, is an incredible facility. So it is where, it's where Scott Collegiate used to be. And it includes the Albert Scott Library, and it's an absolutely gorgeous facility. Come join us, talk about racism. Come join us. But go where people are, and don't just expect them to come to you. Don't say our doors are open. We know your doors are open, But you need to convince people, or we, all of us, need to convince people that what we're offering is actually for me. I need to see myself reflected. We need to involve people, engage people from the beginning of planning to the end of evaluation. And we need to include people, the people who are the targets of the programs need to be involved in the decision making. We need to see everybody in an organization as part of the solution. So we had somebody talking about, like, I'm expected in my position to have all the knowledge about this, but I know that there are other people in the organization who might be in a variety of different positions, but they've got knowledge too. Tap into that. So we had lots of big conversation. Those are lots of points, but I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lots of excellent information and insights, beginnings of ideas. Let me now turn the microphone, if I can get there, over to Greifenhagen, who will lead us to the next closing element of what we do today.
Yep. All right. So what do you think? Was this a good day? A good afternoon? All right. I found it was wonderful, and I didn't fall asleep, which is really good. So just a few last minute things here. The planning committee, chaired by Yvonne Harrison and Sarah Hanna, will review and summarize the information gathered today, so it'll be made available to you. Look in your packets, or even on the tables. There's information how you can join the network. Basically, we just need your email address, and if you aren't part of that yet, I'd urge you to do that, because you'll receive electronic updates on VSSN and the next steps for community engagement. You'll be receiving an evaluation form via email that we hope you will complete. We value your input, and it will aid us in planning and preparing future community building sessions. To follow the conversation today, there's a Twitter hashtag, so if you know how to do that, follow away. I won't. I'm a Luddite, and I don't even have a cell phone, so I can't do that. I want to just very quickly thank again those who are responsible for the event, the planning committee. I want to thank especially also our keynote speaker, Dr. David Renz, all the university and community leaders, presenters, and then every one of you that isn't encompassed with what I've just said, for taking the time out of your busy day to help us engage as a community together. And I hope, they're all gone now, but there were the volunteer program booths up there. I hope you had a chance to see what they were doing and to help them out. A couple of plugs is tomorrow, at Luther College starting at 9:30 with a smudging ceremony, is an event going beyond words, honoring our children and youth. This is a workshop that will go till 2, including lunch. We gather to develop concrete ways to support our Indigenous and non-Indigenous youth in their work on reconciliation. Kind of a key person there is going to be Sylvia Smith, who's the creator of Project of Heart, community leaders from the Circle Project, and youth from the Canadian Roots Exchange. Our young people are really doing an amazing job, as some of us heard, but it's hard, and they need the support in working on this reconciliation. So I invite you to go to that. And then this is a much more future plug, and much more in terms of the nonprofit community, is the third annual Common Threads Conference, which brings together, where the Voluntary Sector Studies Network brings together a lot of people to hear research, to network, and so on. This will be happening on June 14th, 2018. And it's going beyond word. Oh, no, that's the one I just did, sorry. The theme and question for that conference is diversity and inclusion. How can we be more representative of the communities we serve? It'll feature Dr. Patricia Bradshaw, Dean of the Sobey School of Business at St. Mary's University, who will share research on the effects of social, functional, and transformational inclusion on the performance of nonprofit boards and organizations. And the conference will also feature local experts who will address different aspects of the conference theme. So June 14th, just laser it into your brain and you'll have it there. And then I know you're just sticking around because there's the final thing, which is the draw, right? So I don't know if Sarah is still around and Rob from the Riders. They are the ones who provided the gifts, so we'll have you come forward and we'll do the draws. He's coming up. Okay. Yeah, so you know that in your name tag is your ticket, right? So go into your name tag and pull it out, and it's all by numbers. So the first winner here is 208-7745. Yeah. There might be people who went, they forfeited their chance. So we'll have to draw another one. All right, this is 208-7750. Oh, no. They all begin with 208, right? Okay, so I won't say those numbers. Okay, 7821. Go ahead. 7824. Yay, come on up. I'll pull the next one. Okay, while Brian's coming up here, we'll pull for the next one, 7734. Yay, come on up. And this is the last one.
The last one for me.
Yeah, right. So now 7743. No. Oh, do you want me to choose one? 7826. Yay! Okay, come on up. That's it for now. We just have the last one here. Yes. Now, I think, Rob, you need to explain this one. This is a pretty special prize.
So from our 2017 inaugural season in the new stadium, this is a football signed by all the players from last year.
Oh, wow. So why don't you pick the winning? That's not fair. All right, for this big gift, the winning number is 7774. Oh no. Okay. All right. 7, 8, 2, 9. All right. 7, 8, 2, 8. Ah, right on. Let's check that one out. Okay. It's verified. Well, thanks folks for coming and spending the afternoon together. I think it was very successful, and have a rest of a good evening and a weekend. Drive safe.